And to then be told that what I was going through was basically mental abuse, I didn't know whether to be relieved.
High volume.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, my name is Aria Wright. This used to be a couples channel and now it's not. We are currently divorced. I am doing a series on why we got married so fast, why it ended so fast, just all the drama basically. In this video, I'm going to really try not to do too much editing, just sit down with you, be real. This is the video that most people have been waiting on, so I guess let's just get into it. So for starters, I do want to let everyone that doesn't already know me personally in life know that my ex-husband and I were very much so in love. Everything between us was real. We met on ship. I was in the Navy. He came on my ship for deployment. He was a Marine and the whole shebang. You know, we were together for 7 months straight. We fell in love. In this video, I am going to be talking about exact situations and what other people would seem to call tea or juicy, but really I have completely healed. I'm in a new and stable relationship. I'm not going to post too much about that, but I just say this to say that because I'm healed, hopefully someone out there can relate to my situation, hear this story. If you're in a situation where you don't want to be married any longer, I am not once saying step outside of your marriage or just up and leave your partner. Go to therapy, seek some help, but hopefully this video makes you feel not so alone. I can't speak for him. I'm going to speak on facts, of my point of view facts. So this isn't about me talking down on him whatsoever. This is just what I went through and why on my end the divorce ended. From starters, since the very first day we met on board, political beliefs and Christianity were very huge. That is something that we connected on, mainly the Christianity aspect of it. You know, when he first came on board and he saw me, he sat down in front of me in the mess X chow hall, whatever you want to call it. And he was like, hey, how you doing? You believe in God? And I kind of, at the time, was very much like, oh, I love God. You know, I don't know if I believe in the Bible. I was very watered down Christian. I'm still working on myself even now, but I would say I was a lot more watered down back then. I am now baptized. I'll get further into that actually because Logan and I were baptized together. But anyways, so our very first conversation that we had together was basically getting into it like, are you a Christian? Do you believe in Jesus? And, you know, he kind of worked with me from there with both of our faith being pretty similar, just some things that I had questioned. And, you know, he kind of had helped me along the way within our relationship and, you know, getting closer to the Lord, basically. So, but then when it comes to the political aspect, we had several talks on board. I used to not be super into politics, but now that when I was with him, I was 22 on board. But now that I'm definitely 25, I am a lot more involved into politics and someone's beliefs on how humans should be treated and all the whole thing, right? So on board, me being a black woman, him being a white woman, one of the first things I asked him was like, do you like Trump? What are your political beliefs? Are you Republican? Are you liberal? Like, what is the deal? And he was very much like, nope, don't like Trump. My parents don't like Trump. Everything about Trump was like negative, right? Down the line, we had some, when I say down the line, I mean like a year later, we had like some conversations where like, he was like, oh, well, you know, Trump is kind of doing this or he did this and it was kind of helpful, but like, nah, I don't like the guy, you know, no. And then we would have other conversations about like racial views on things. And like, say if I don't know if you guys know about the darn brawl that happened, right? Dang, I forgot where that happened. I'm gonna figure it out and put it right here. But the video that went viral about the brawl, if you don't know about it, go look it up on Twitter or something. It's crazy. There's examples of that. And there's examples of just like, you know, police officers shooting people and just all sorts of things that have just happened in the news and social media and has just spiraled, right? And I would definitely, as a Black woman, have an opinion on those things and be like, of course, another cop killing, a Black man. And we'd watch the video, or I'd watch the video and be like, there was no reason for him to actually be killed. There's no real evidence, whatever the case is. And I just felt like he constantly argued with me back and forth. And I'm not saying this to like put down, like, don't be with a white man. I'm not saying that now. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is like, I wish those red flags, those controversial talks, it was a lot of like, when you tell a guy what you look for in a man and they kind of pretend to be those things in the beginning and then it completely fades off 6 months later. That was that. And so I know like I'm not getting too much into detail right now, but like the arguments, we had arguments while on board when we first met. Now it was super lovey-dovey and honeymoon phase, but those arguments were something that I always kept in the back of my head. Like, why is he so debative about Black and white topics? Like, yeah, you can have an opinion, of course. I'm not saying he couldn't have an opinion, but like, why are you beating me down on what I'm telling you that my people have gone through, or unnecessary things that have happened out in public between a cop, or things Trump had said or did not say, which, sometimes no words can say a lot. So there was a lot of just racial things, and I'll further get into the whole Christianity thing and how some things started to change. I would say the more and more and more we would talk about politics and racial views, it was almost like a resentment had started, and that's what really caused a lot of our arguments. And I'm talking, this is like, now we are, I want to say, no, not 7. It was like right after we had gotten married at the 9-month mark. Yeah, we got married at 9 months. If you haven't seen the video, go check it out. But I would say about like right after getting married and living together, moving in together, we would have a lot more political conversations because we'd be at his family's house for Sunday dinners, or, around his very Christian grandmother. Nothing wrong with being very Christian at all. But very Christian grandmother, and just having more talks about those racial views and what is further going on in the world. I felt like it was almost like a resentment. Like, he kind of looked at me in a way like, who did I marry? Like, why is she arguing with me about this stuff? And then in the same breath, I was looking at him like, now wait a minute. Why is that your view? And why are you going back and forth with me about something like this? Like, really, what? I'm confused. And so I think we both were very like, had attitudes, and that resentment started to build. Like, who the heck did I marry? We are so different. But really, I have been myself since the beginning when it came to my political and racial views. I made that very clear in the beginning. There was no pretending on my side. I will say I felt like he did pretend in ways, and then down the line, the mask came off. He couldn't hide it anymore. And then it was just Trump, Trump, Trump. And I'm like, some things I was like, okay, yeah, maybe Trump did do that. And I started to kind of, I wouldn't say lose myself, but I would definitely almost like overly agree with some things. And maybe I wouldn't say completely brainwashed, but I definitely was getting a little bit more convinced. And I don't know, it didn't take me until leaving him to really snap out of like even saying anything positive about Trump. Because now you can't get me to say nothing positive about him, like literally. Our arguments had gotten so bad that it would literally make everyone around us like awkward. His Sunday family dinners, like if there was like, when you have couples around you that like the tension is high, that was us. We had went to Washington, D.C. with my mom. My mom was like, oh my gosh, like you two need to cut it out. Everything doesn't have to be an argument. Like, I mean, it didn't matter if we were talking about if Marines actually ate crayons or not. It was going to be a real argument. Like, come on, brother. With all of the indifferences of me now married to a white man that I'm now finding out really does support Trump, and has issues with Black people stating the struggles that we are still going through. By no means am I sitting here saying that I think I'm oppressed. That's not what I'm saying. But if you right now are watching this video and you genuinely feel like all Black people just, we're good now. There's nothing, racism and all that stuff is just gone. You're out of your mind. You're out of your mind. It's still here. I don't know if it'll ever leave. That's America, okay? Black people can be successful, but that doesn't mean that it didn't take some people 3 times as harder as it could have a white person. That's just how I see it. But so those type of conversations, and then add the arguments in it, really started messing with my mental health. Now, I've already dealt with depression before when I was younger in middle school, due to, weight issues and just bullying, all sorts of things. So I've already have been battling with depression and anxiety. And now I'm in this marriage where I am starting to feel like I am regretting who I married, and, just constantly praying to God to please, Lord, like, help me in this situation. I married this man because I love him and he loves me. And the last thing I ever wanted to do was to think so negatively about like leaving my husband or wanting to just not be with him anymore, because I'm going to pull into the Christian aspect of it. It's a sin. God hates divorce. God hates divorce. Man and women coming together, it's a lot more biblical than people think. If you're not Christian, that's fine. If you're Christian, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So being a Christian woman who married this man, knowing that like we looked each other both in the face, like we're doing this out of real love and we are never going to divorce under God's name. And then that put so much on my mental strain with someone who is just started taking her faith seriously. I got baptized with my husband once we became, married. And then it's like, now I'm thinking of, this is not the person I thought he was. And oh my gosh, was I ever supposed to get married to him? Were we rushing things? Was God sending me signs this whole time? And, I'm being a stubborn child, not listening to my parent, not seeing or hearing him clearly. And I did what I wanted to do because of what I felt in the moment. And now I'm having to disappoint him further, as in, my father God, and possibly have these huge thoughts of leaving my husband and not wanting to be with him anymore. And I'm sure my ex-husband probably had, sorry, I have sticky notes with me, but I'm sure my ex-husband probably had some of those similar thoughts as well. Maybe not. I can't really speak for him. But yeah, that really messed with my mental. And then that's when the heavy depression kicked in. That's when the anxiety kicked in. So much went wrong and spiraled so quickly with my mental. I would say he was also affected mentally. I don't know exactly all the things. I mean, he was a Marine. He is a Marine, so maybe some things at work also played a part. But I'm just telling you like what played a part in where my mental started to go wrong. Both of us even tried therapy. I know there were some people who on social media, Instagram, give me hate comments. Well, you shouldn't have broken up. You shouldn't have gotten divorced or separated, whatever I want to call it, whatever you want to call it. And they're like, you should have went to therapy. Maybe only a year? What? Therapy. We tried it. When you go to therapy, if I'm sitting down with my therapist, couples therapy, and she goes, hey, Zaria, please tell me what you feel like he could work on for you to feel happier. And if I tell her those things, and then knowing all the little things he complains about to me, right, about me, and then she goes, now, hey, you, what could Zaria work on to now help you out to feel better? And he doesn't really give all of the complaints that he's complaining about every single day in my ear, and he doesn't say those things. Okay. I don't know. Just asking like, so what's going on? Tell me, give me examples of your day to day. What things do you guys argue about? And if he's kind of just like, Like, what's gonna resolve from this? Like, we both have to be on the same page with how much we are going to be exposing of ourselves in order to fix this. I want this fixed. You say you want it fixed. Speak up and let's fix it. You know? With him and I was always looked at as the pants wearer almost, not degrading him as a man, but it was almost like I was the one who would take initiative, and I was the one that spoke for the both of us. And so some people look at me as if like, oh, you know the stereotypes that black women get when we're the ones that sometimes can cut people off to talk, not in a rude way, but just because like we know either our friend or family member or, you know, counterparts, whatever, we know the things that they're not comfortable talking as much or whatever. So we step in to take that position, that place, and then we're looked at as like we're doing too much. I don't know if I'm explaining that right at all. Probably not. Please don't cancel me or hate me just because I'm not explaining something correctly. I feel like black women, if you're watching this, you kind of get what I'm saying. We've gone through it probably all of our lives. All of us at some point have gone through it where, you know, if we're not super shy, we're looked at as like, oh, she talks a lot, or I don't know. I don't. I'm going to move on because I don't know if I'm explaining this correctly or not. With him and I was always the spokesperson for our relationship, our marriage. And so then coming into counseling, I was hoping this is the one time that he would be able to step up and speak more than me, if not just as much as I am, but that wasn't the case. So therapy, we went to 1 or 2 sessions, I would say, and we argued as soon as we got in the car, because I'm basically like, hey, I'm glad we went, but like, I needed you to give more. Like, you complain about this with me, or you know, I don't want to make everything complaints. Like, you point this out, or you ask me to do this, or whatever it is that you have an issue with me. That was your moment to tell her. So that way, when I tell her my issues with you, she can put those both together and help us figure out a resolution. You not giving all your reasons and me giving everything, it now makes her look like I'm the problem person. Like, I'm just the one that got all the problems in this marriage, when that wasn't the case. So my ex-husband and I, we had a big difference in our love languages. As most men, he was deeply rooted into physical touch being his love language. And mine was quality time and words of affirmation. So in the beginning, it wasn't so bad. You know, I explained to him like, hey, I'm not super touchy. I'm not one for PDA. Anyone that's ever, I haven't dated a whole lot, but anyone that's actually like dated me, or, you know, they would know that I don't like PDA. If we are in front of friends, sure, you can hold my hand, we can hug. Cool. You know, you can put your hand on my lap if you want. If we are in front of my family, my mom, my brother, my grandparents, please don't touch me. Sorry. That's just how I am. I kind of got to learn to grow into it. And even in my relationship that I'm in now, I'm a lot better at it. And that's something that I've learned, like I'm going to further get into, that kind of, you know, mess with my ex-husband, because his love language, if I'm stuttering, it's because I'm trying so hard not to say his name. But my ex-husband, and, you know, with his love language being physical touch, we have to both meet in the middle. I don't like PDA. He's very much like, I want to hold you, rub on you in front of people, not in front of people. But if you know that this is something that I told you from the very beginning I don't like, don't do it. And he would do it. Now, what this made me seem like was, if we're in front of his family, it looked like, on top of everything they already know we're kind of going through, it just added on to like, Zari's a problem. You know, he's trying to kiss her cheek and everything, and she's kind of like freezing up. Like, does she even love him? That's not the case. Because at home, yes, I love on my husband. My husband loves on me. But when I'm in public, in front of family, in front of friends, in front of strangers, please don't touch me. It makes me awkward. I'm not like that now. I have grown. But it makes me shut down. And maybe it's because of how I was raised. Like, you know, I just had my mom, and I don't know, we're not as touchy as some other families are. I don't know. But I just know that he would cross boundaries of my love language. And then with his love language being physical touch, I think due to just everyday little things in the house, like if I'm walking on crumbs or, you know, guys with their toilet seats, whatever, it starts to make women resent men. So it's like, I'm already not super touchy, but I am touchy at home, you know, in our own privacy. But now there's like these other little things that most women kind of deal with their husbands. It's like, you're just pushing me away from wanting to show that physical touch to you that you need in order to feel love. But at the same time, like, I don't know. And when it would come to quality time, I am huge on spontaneous dates, on after showers and dinner, let's lay down in bed or let's go on the couch and let's start a show, let's watch a movie. Like, let's settle down for our night together. He would pray every single day. Amazing. Some days I struggled with that when I was with him. It was definitely the best that it's ever been. Well, other than now, but as in before I met him. So then, yeah, we would pray every night. And in the beginning, when we first got married, it was kind of like, okay, yeah, we would settle down together. And then by every week, it was just like one less day of the week of us settling down in bed together or on the couch and watching something. And, you know, we would be separated. So now my love language isn't being matched. His love language isn't being matched because I'm irritated with certain things. And it just, you guys know what a toxic relationship is like. You guys can put two and two together. In our marriage, we had involved so many people. Well, I guess not so many people, but we definitely involved people into our marriage. I involved my mother. I called my mom every day. Mind you, this isn't an excuse, but mind you, I was stationed with him. So I moved away from home to live with him. And I did it happily, but I didn't have family around. Where we moved, he was an hour away from his mother's, an hour from his grandmother's that we went to every Sunday. I had no one. My people were 4.5, 5 hours away. So I already have a very close relationship with my mom. I would call her every day when I was in service. Like every day, if I could, I would give her a phone call, text message at minimum. I've just always been very close to my mom. But something that I did and should not have done was involve her as much as I did. I called my mom about every day if I had an issue or if I had a question. And a lot of it I thought was being more so helpful. But in the long run, looking back at it, it quite wasn't. And he had involved one of his grandmothers. And I think like you should be able to seek advice from your, you know, the older people in your family about relationships and marriage, especially those who have, you know, been in marriages or whatever before. Like, yeah, it's nice to get advice, especially when you're struggling with your person. You would hope that your family could help you. But it was like he would, this is the thing that got me. So at night, he would go outside to be on the phone with his grandmother for like an hour to 3 hours at times. And he never once took a phone call inside the house with her while I was at the house with him. So I'll be in the room laying with him or something, and he'd get a phone call from her or decide he wants to get up and call her. And he would go outside into our complex and just be on the phone with her for hours. And picture this. Remember, we both still have that resentment. We both still arguing about everything. You know, we're trying. We're vocalizing like, oh, I do love you, but, you know, I'm falling out of love. Like we would say things like that. And it was very toxic. But it was like, come on, man. Like I'm on the phone with my mom on speakerphone, video chat. While you're in the room, like, what are you talking to this grandmother about that you can't say in front of me? This is a grandmother that sometimes getting closer to us leaving, separating apart, he would go over to her house that was like an hour and a half away with his other family members there. And he would go there to have Bible studies and stuff. And in the beginning, when we first moved to South Carolina, I would go out there with him. And I was like, oh, I love them, you know. And I'm not going to say too much about his grandmother situation and what she's dealing with. But it definitely, as a Christian woman, let me say, ain't nobody perfect. But as someone who gave him, I want to thank his first Bible and really brought him up into his faith, I just want to say that I don't think that she was a great example when it came to trying to help someone in a toxic marriage. I personally just don't think that she was a great example due to her own personal situation that she had going on. And he, my ex-husband, thought the same in me and getting advice from my mom, because my mother has been married and divorced. And so he saw it as, how can a woman that isn't even married give you good advice and has, failed marriages or whatever? Like, so we both were looking at each other like, why would you get advice from that person? Yeah. And so I would call my mom and I would tell her, like, hey, he just went outside to go talk to his grandmother again. Like, my mom used to always think, like, black mama, she like, he cheating? What he doing? And I'm like, no, he's on the phone with his grandmother. I swear to you. And she's like, don't nobody go outside for that long to be on the phone with just their grandmother every single night. And I'm like, I swear to you. And so there was this one random weekend where she came to come see me, and just spend the weekend with us. And we were both excited. Well, I was excited. It was my mom. And I would like to think that he was, somewhat excited. And there was a night where when she was there, we were all doing something together. Just finished eating dinner, showering, whatever. And we were talking about we were going to go to the fire pit later or something. And he walked out before us because he was on the phone with his grandmother. He had told me, like, hey, I'm going to go talk to my grandmother. And my mom and I were just like, like, okay, yeah, no problem. And then I looked at her like, I told you, like, his grandmother. And she said, she didn't say it to me. She said it to me after the fact. So don't think that she's like messy boots. But after the fact, this is what she told me. She was like, nah, we gonna go out there to go see about this. So in the present moment, she was like, well, let's go walk to the fire pit then. If he's on the phone with his grandmother, let's go walk around. So we went out there. It was about like 20 minutes after he had already left the house. We walked out, went to the fire pit. He had on speaker. And as we're like coming up on him, we were coming from behind him, and we weren't trying to like be quiet or sneak or anything. It was a quiet night. And so we come walking up and you can hear her on speaker, his grandmother. And, not in that moment, but after the fact, when mom told me, she was like, he really be on the phone with his grandmother like that? I'm like, yes. And every time I personally felt like that, I don't think his grandmother's an evil person by no means, but it was almost like an evil spirit further came into our household every time he would either go to her house to go have those Bible studies and have talks, those long talks with her and get advice, or walk outside to go talk to her. And it was like when he would come back, the energy was so different. It was kind of like I don't know what he was doing, talking down on me. She was agreeing and basically was like, yeah, leave her, whatever the case is. But like anytime I can only speak for myself fully, but anytime I talked to my mom and had phone calls with her, she would hear it in my voice. She would see me pouring down crying, saying, I want my marriage to work. I don't want to be a failure. I want this to work. I do love him, but I'm struggling. This, that, and the third. Like, my mom, she could tell you firsthand, I did not want to leave that man. I did not want to leave that man. Not because I was desperate, but because I wanted my marriage to work. I was in love with him. And for those of y'all who have been possibly in my situation before, it was one of those moments of, you can love someone and still have to let them go. And that is what it came down to with the both of us. So moving on from the point of involving family, I'm kind of skimming over all of these things. I lived with the man for a little bit over a year. So these details that I'm giving you, times it by 5, promise you. So something I want to give my ex-husband huge credit for was him stepping up as a provider, in the sense of, he was like, I know that God wants me as a man to pay all the bills in the household. You should not have to work. If you're wanting to work, you can, but you should not have to work. And now any veteran out there knows that it is hard to find work when you get out. If you weren't in IT, or if you weren't some like very smartsy MOS or rate, it is hard to find work when you get out of service. So not only did I get out of service, but then I married him and moved to a whole nother state that I'm not used to. I struggled to find work. I was applying to any and everything on Indeed all day long, and I struggled to find work that paid well and made sense for me and my schedule that I wanted. And so, yeah, he stepped up and he paid all the bills. He was very sweet in the point of if I wanted to go to TJ Maxx, even if we were struggling to go buy a few decor to make our house feel more homey, he would do it because he wanted to make me happy in that aspect. So I don't want you guys to just focus on all the negatives because there's so many positives, and that's why I married him, and that's why, I was with him for the time. There's so many positives that were in our marriage, but I'm just making this video so you guys can understand some of the key points, some of the key negative points that caused me and him and I to split and now be divorced at such young ages. Yeah, if I wanted to go to the store and buy anything I wanted, I'm a reasonable person anyways. He was just like, yeah, He would surprise me with some roses, and how I would label my ex-husband, I would label him as a 10 out of 10 boyfriend. Now, for a husband at that time, it's been some years now, I would label him a strong 4 out of 10 husband. I would rate myself at that time probably a 6 out of 10 wife. And it's not saying that like, oh, I think I'm so much better than him. No, I had a lot of crap that I had to work on when it came to my mental. I went berserk on some moments. Cussing him clean out, all sorts of things. It was bad, y'all. It was bad. It was so bad to the point that this is a man who, from 17 years old all the way up to, I married him, I think when he was 25, had never said a cuss word, never cussed. But we got so toxic to the point that, the devil was bringing the worst up out of us. That spiritual warfare ain't no joke in a marriage. Spiritual warfare ain't no joke. And us getting baptized together definitely made the devil like I got to get them separated now. And it got my ex-husband to the point that he started to cuss again. Like he would say some, not wilding like most people out here, but like he would say certain things. And I'm like, no, not you. Not you saying a cuss word now. Okay, Christian boy. And I was petty like that. Like, aren't you supposed to be a Christian boy? The Lord has worked on me. Let me just say that. The Lord, I have matured in a lot of ways. Lord, I hope he has too. There is someone in particularly in my family who saw, I would tell them like, but he lets me spend money on things, or, he doesn't withhold things from me in the sense of letting me use money, even though I don't really have any, I'm not working. And there's about 2 different people in my family who I've explained this to when I left him, and they were like, baby, that's control. That is someone who is mentally controlling you. And I'm like, what do you mean? And if you're confused, it's also because there were moments where, we would have our financial issues. And I remember this one day we sat in like the Food Line parking lot for like 2 hours because I'm pouring down crying. I'm irritated because I asked him, can I see your bank account? We need to go over finances because we're like dead broke. We have a banana in our fridge, like dead broke. And he was very much like, what do you need to see my account for? Like, what? I'm like, baby, I'm your wife. Like, why can't I see your bank account if, you let me get things that I want or need to get for our household to replenish? And I just don't understand, like, what is the problem? Why are you being so like hell bent with me over this situation? And a little insight with him was also before we got together. I know I'm jumping around, but I'm trying to be as real with you all, not be so scripted. And so my mind is bouncing around. Just please stick with me. But there were, like, when we first met on board, he was very much like, oh, he had like this fat vape. And I'm like, what the heck? I used to call it a battery pack because that's what it looked like. And I'd like poke fun at him. Like, you got a whole battery pack in your pocket. And then he was like, oh, I'm going to quit vaping soon, whatever the case is. And so then once we got married, he was like, oh, I don't smoke and I don't vape or whatever. And then I would start to like do laundry and see like in his trousers of his pants, he would have like the Zen pouches. Have you ever seen a Zen pouch? It looks like, it's basically like a tobacco can almost, but it's plastic. And I would see that and I'd take it out and it'd be completely empty. And I'd like question about it, like, what is this? He's like, oh no, that's my buddies. Or, he'd come up with some reason. I'm just like, the white lies. We got to stop with the white lies. And there was other couple little lies, but that was the main one. It was like him and the still vaping and Zen pouches. Like, why are you hiding it? Like, just tell me you're vaping again and you're doing nicotine. Like, it really isn't that deep. I don't understand why you were lying about this. And it started to make me angry because he was lying. I'm like, why are you even doing it anyways? You clearly know this isn't something you should be doing because you're hiding it. So why do it anyways? And he would always fight me on it. He's not doing it. And so I feel like he was probably going to vape shops and buying certain things. And that's why he didn't want me to see his bank account. And I had already told him once before, like, oh my gosh, you are buying energy drinks like every day, 2 or 3 times a day. Like, we can't be doing that. And so I think that has to do with going back why we were in that car. And when I was questioning him about seeing his bank account, he was so angry, so aggressive. The thing with him is he would go from lovey-dovey to in 10 minutes, me asking one question will get him to a 10. Like that's what it got to. And when he got to 10, I got to 10. Now my 10 might have been a little bit more buck wild than his 10, but his 10 was very passive aggressive and it made me feel belittled in ways. And so it took me probably an hour of arguing with him that day in the car for him to hand me the phone, for me to go on his bank account. I'm scrolling and then I saw that he was at a vape shop and I said something about it. And then immediately, of course, that got him to a 10. If he wasn't at the 10 already, he was at a 10. And so I'm like, yo, we got to write this stuff down. Like, we got to do something to fix these finances. We're already struggling, with our marriage. We can't have this on top of what we're already going through. And we just had so many of those financial conversations that just always seem to play out the same exact way. Now, I had eventually found work. I had went to go sell timeshare at this one place in Hilton Head. I had worked at TJ Maxx. My TJ Maxx paychecks were like, I'd only work for 4 hours, like 2-3 times a week. So every week I only got like a $400. But it was a little something, for me to help get more furniture for the apartment, fill up the fridge, whatever. If you guys are confused with why we were so broke as well, it was because him as a Marine, me not working, a veteran trying to find work, we were getting paid about $2,100 in BAH. We decided to move into. I was a little bit, first off, the place that we chose, I initially didn't want. I wanted another spot. And then we went for our second round of looking at apartments. He was like, I kind of like this spot, the one that we moved into. And I was like, but it's like $2,300, right? And he's like, yeah, but that's not a biggie. We'll figure it out. And so like, my man being so secure with the money, it made me feel like, okay, this is the one, like, I really like this anyway. So, okay, yeah, whatever about the other place. I like this one better now too. And so we moved into this spot that was $2,300. Now that's only $200 out of pocket that we had to come up with. But there was also, I had a $300 car payment. He didn't have a car payment. He was getting cars like off Facebook Marketplace and stuff at the time. Then he got a car payment that ended up being $300 as well. So now we got 2 vehicles that are $300. And then of course there's groceries. We're coming up with the extra $200. We both have car insurance now. For whatever reason, we just were not doing well financially at all. Okay. So when it came to, he had another grandmother, not the super Christian grandmother. Again, don't mean that in a negative way. That's just how I'm describing her instead of saying her name. But then he had another grandmother. She's a little more Southern, still claims to be Christian and everything, but her ways are a little bit different. Different is not bad. Different's okay, but her ways were different. I have so much respect for my ex-husband's family still. They will always be in my heart. I love them. There are certain family members that I struggled with a little bit in the beginning due to some cultural indifferences and things. Not going to get too much into that due to the fact that I respect certain family members of his so dearly. We would go over to one grandmother's house every Sunday for dinner. Now, I loved going over there for Sunday dinner. In the beginning, I was kind of like, eh. And then it really grew on me. They grew on me. And I was like, yes, please, let's go to Sunday dinner every Sunday. It was an hour away, so we also were spending money on gas with that, adding to financial problems probably. But he, in the beginning, when we first moved to South Carolina, we were married and we were going to Sunday dinner. You know, he had warned me like, oh, she likes to do Sunday dinner, you know, every Sunday. This is her thing. And I was like, I think it's a cool thing. It's a nice thing, you know. Not everyone gets to be around a table with a bunch of their family members who are still alive and well and get to update each other every week. I was like, this is a beautiful thing. I wish, and I've always dreamt of this. I always dreamt of being in a big family who would have board games and spend holidays together and dinners. So I felt like I was in my dream family almost, except for some cultural differences. But we can always work on that. You know, you live and you learn, and you learn your new family members or whatever. He was a little bit, maybe it was almost like he knew that he had access to his family, so he became complacent and he didn't feel the need to go over there as much. As for I was always like, please, let's go over there every Sunday. Let's go. And let's get there early. Let's get there on time. Oh my gosh. One, we could never get there early on time unless I had an argument and force his butt to get up. Why were we lollygagging? I don't know. You would think as someone who is active duty Marine, you would be on time places. Never the case. Anytime walking out the door, immediately it's, oh, I gotta pee. Oh, I gotta pee. Oh, I gotta go do some things. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. And so I am I don't know if this is correct, type A, type B. I think I'm a type A type of person where I think type A, if I got it wrong, bear with me. But type A is like the more on time, the more organized type of person. And type B is kind of like, yeah, bruh, we get there, we get there. I'm go with the flow. It's all going to play out just right type of person. And that's not me. That's not how I was raised. And, you know, I kind of was almost forced to have to relax off of that because he was very much type B. And it just kept getting more and more like, first we were getting there late, and then it was like he didn't want to go at all. And, you know, then his grandmother would call and be like, hey, honey, y'all coming over? And it was kind of like, yeah, we'll get there. And I would be like, and then we'd have an argument behind the phone call or after she'd finished calling him or texting him or whatever. Like, see, exactly. Let's go. We're not doing anything else this Sunday. Like, let's go. I get it. Now, some Sundays you want to have to yourself. You don't want to be around family. But my goodness, it is an hour to 3 hours. Because sometimes we'd sit in her big open room and just talk. But you were going to miss them when they're gone. And we are only an hour away. I would kill to be at my mom or grandparents. But no, I don't have them. All I have is you and your family now. So let's get up. Let's go to family. Let's go eat good food. Let's go talk. And let's catch up. Now, once we would get to his grandmother's, it was almost like he would put on this show of he's happy he's here. It was almost like I didn't just have to drag him out of the house to go. And he did. There was just so much of being two-faced in front of his family. And it was killing me inside because the things that I knew he would say about them or the way he felt about going over to dinners, and it was like, and then we would get there and he was playing this game of everything's perfectly fine. I love it here. I want to be here. And it was just like, it put me in a very hard situation. And what else? This is a little off topic detail, but it's going to come back soon. There is this one particular uncle of his that he had told me when we were first, on deployment together. He was like, yeah, this uncle, he's always been so jealous of me and, my physique and just me as a person. And, just meeting my ex-husband on board and, dating him. Of course, I'm like, ha ha ha, like kind of believing what he's saying, questioning it in the back of my head. But like, who am I to call you a liar? I don't know these people. These are your family members. So yeah, he would express that this one particular uncle was jealous of him, yada, yada, yada. Come to find out, this is the uncle that made, yes, I still wear it because I love this ring so much. It's on my right hand, not my left hand. But his uncle is the one that owns this jewelry store. They have a family jewelry store that his great grandmother had, that then passed down onto his grandmother, the one that is more southern and had the family dinners, who then split it half with her son, her youngest son, which is also the uncle that apparently is jealous of my husband at the time. Okay. Don't know why this grown man with a successful business would be jealous of a 25-year-old Marine dude, but hey, okay, so he says it. Must be true, right? And this particular uncle, I never really exchanged too many words with him when we would go over for Sunday dinner. He was a busy man. You know, he had his own family, but his home and that grandmother's home were pretty close. Like, it was on the same plot, basically. And yeah, I just never really said too much towards him. There was probably a few laughs here and there. I spoke to his wife, my husband's aunt at the time, a little bit more, and for sure their children. I laughed and played with them all the time. But, you know, I always kept that mental note of, why is this uncle jealous of my husband? And it wasn't until when things got worse and things became more obvious to this grandmother, or at least I think it was a little bit more obvious to her, that my husband at the time was not wanting to be over there as much and was preferring to go to the other grandmother's house, the very Christian one. And he would definitely put her above this grandmother. Now, mind you, when we would leave Sundays from this grandmother's house, we would have long talks about either their political beliefs or what we talked about politically. Like, a lot of political talk would always happen on those Sundays. We had a lot of laughs, but a lot of deep conversations. I was always the only Black person in the room. And, you know, he would just say some things that weren't so positive about this grandmother. And like I said, it was taking a toll on me. And there was this one particular Sunday where he preferred to go to this grandmother's house, and his mom was also over there. And so when I just, you know, I knew that he was planning to go to that grandmother's house over the more southern one. So when I left the house, I knew I was leaving alone to go over to this grandmother's house for Sunday dinner. I was like, well, if he's not home, you know, it's not like he invited me over there with him. So if he's not home and he prefers to go over there and do whatever, talk about whatever, I'm going to go where I feel most comfortable right now, I guess, over here with this grandmother. And I would say there's a solid like 3 Sundays where I went alone because he either didn't want to go or he put something else over it, or he, you know, whatever. He just wanted to relax. And there was, I would say, a solid 3 Sundays where I went over there alone. And this was the very last one where I went over there alone before crap got real. So when I got to that grandmother's house, she was like, I can't remember if she asked me, well, honey, where is he at? And I can't remember if she asked me or not, or if she already knew. But I was like, oh, yeah, he went to, you know, that grandmother's house. Mind you, these 2 grandmothers don't get along for reasons like I explained earlier, with this one probably not being the best example to get relationship marriage advice from due to her own situation. She's given me gifts. I bless her soul. Everyone that I've said or talked about in this video, I have no bad blood with them. I do not hate them. There are certain people I obviously connect with a lot more and had trusted in more than others. But that's family. Marriages can be messy. I was not hoping that my marriage and family around me were going to be messy, but it was. It got into that point. Anyways, so she was like, where is he at? And I was like, oh, yeah. So he went to that grandmother's house. And then I'm looking around and there's no one else really there. You know, his brothers would be over there. Like, there was a lot more other people that would come every Sunday. And I saw his dad. I was like, well, I'm not going to say her name, but I'm basically like, where's my mother-in-law? And he was like, oh, she went over there too, to her mom's house. I was like, oh, okay. So my ex-husband and his mom are over there. I was like, okay. That kind of made me feel like, okay, well, she went as well then. All right, cool. It wasn't just him, once again, going alone to gossip or do whatever they do. And so it was just that Sunday. It was his grandmother and grandfather on that side, myself, and his father, my father-in-law. It was just us four, I want to say, that Sunday. So we're getting food. Food is done. We're all sitting at the table eating, us four, talking about things. His father, I want to also mention, was not the biggest fan of his wife's mother, which is that other grandma. So there's already friction between the two different sides with the grandmother, right? So we're doing a little bit of talking about that and with them being over there and the house basically being divided this weekend and the drama. And all I remember is even talking about the struggles that I was going through, like a very brief moment of the struggles. I get up and I'm like, well, let me go fix my husband some food though. I want to bring him back food. And I think it was his uncle and aunt. No, it was his uncle and aunt who might have walked in like 2 minutes prior to me getting up to make the plate because they were coming to get plates and take it back to the house. And I get up and his uncle goes, the one who I really don't ever talk to, the jeweler, the one that, you know, my ex-husband is so jealous of, or that is jealous of my ex-husband for whatever reason, husband at the time. I get up, and these words are powerful to me because of the fact that we barely exchange words. And so I go to fix the plate. And it's been years now, so my wording is going to be a bit off. But he was basically like, don't do that. He doesn't deserve it. And I was like, what? I'm shook. I'm shook. I'm shook. And I'm trying to laugh it off. This is the first time this uncle has ever acknowledged my husband in a negative light in front of me. And yet the whole time I've been getting fed from my husband negative things about this uncle. And so this moment was like, what is happening right now? And he was like, he doesn't deserve that. Don't fix his plate. And I'm like, no. And I'm steady grabbing like the spoon and the bowl and stuff to go fix it. And now his grandmother was standing right beside me as well. And she looked at her youngest son, the one who's also owning the jewelry business. And she looks at him. I look at the aunt, his wife. I look back at him. And the aunt goes, the uncle's wife goes, hun, no. And when she said that and I saw the look on everyone's face and how quiet and like how the energy shifted in an instant, I knew, you know how 1,000 things can be going through your head in a moment? I knew in that moment, oh my God, they've had the conversations. They know what I'm struggling with. They see it. And as I go to like take the scoop, he's like, no, I'm being for real. Like, he doesn't deserve it. He's not here. You're just going to keep making him entitled. And he was saying some other stuff that was basically like telling me like, snap out of it. What are you doing? And I go to put everything down and it makes me, I'm sorry. I get very emotional. Whew. Okay. I get very emotional when I talk about this exact point in time when I knew my divorce was coming. Because this moment told me that not only am I not crazy for feeling the way that I do, but everyone else around me can see it too. His own family can see what he has been doing to me. Even the aunt spoke up and said something about me fixing this plate and basically the mental abuse that I was dealing with. And then the grandmother, because I started to cry, she gave me a hug. And it was, I can't explain the way that I felt in this moment, surrounded by his family members, but the family members that can see me have been seeing the real me in this moment. So I believe it felt like a weight was lifted off my shoulder. Shortly after I finished hugging, that uncle gave me a quick talk. Like, we see it. We see the way that he is with you here, and it's not right. And his aunt was like, it's not right. And I know to you all who are watching this video, there's a lot of little things I left out that might still have you all confused as to how I got to this moment and the buildup of this moment with speaking to his family. But there's just certain things I'm not willing to share. And you guys really have to respect that. I'm trying my best to make you guys understand. But I also loved his family. And so I'm trying my best to give just enough that isn't too disrespectful, but also enough to give you all insight as to why I'm here. And for those of you all who have been watching us, why he is not here anymore. So after that, aunt and uncle went over back to their house with their kids. And as most Sundays, we would all then, after eating, shift into this huge open room where we would go and talk and watch TV or do whatever, right? And connect more. And it was just that one grandmother, myself, and his father. It was just us three. Never have just us three that I'm aware of have been in a room alone together. Well, we probably have, but not like talking, like real talk together. So we're sitting down on the couch, and because I just finished crying and I'm still tearing up, and I'm telling her that her youngest son, who's a grown man, her youngest son just shook me in the fact that I thought I was going crazy. I thought every time I came over here and you guys heard us arguing or would see the look on his face, on the face that he would give me, I know women use this term a lot with gaslighting, manipulation, and narcissism. But if I can put him in a box, that is the box he belongs in. And I would not say that about any other ex I've been with. But this man, I promise you, there is something off about him. I want to claim it as narcissism. I would put him in that box, respectfully. And so I'm sitting and I'm talking with her and his father, and we are going over all the details of this past year of being with her grandson and then the father, his son. We are now going over all of those details and what I've been struggling with. There are certain things that these two people knew that I struggled with and in the point of performing for him, as in my husband. But I grew so much in the last 2 months of us being together. It was there was just a moment where I prayed and I was like, lock in. You got to step up. That way there is no further complaints that he can give about you and your character. So I grew up in the last 2 months of our marriage. And I felt like people around me were able to see it and hear it in me. And I stopped trying to argue with him. If I said something and he said something back, I kind of just let it be instead of going back and forth. There were just so many little things that I had changed in those last 2 months of us being together to just be maybe it is me. And that's where he got me. I was so in my head of maybe it's me. And that was something I was expressing to them. I'm trying so hard because maybe it was me this whole time. We talked about everything I just told you all, the different of love languages and the fact that, some wifely duties. When man and woman get together, you are now able to do a certain thing. We had very little of that. That's how much friction was in our marriage. And, I just kind of expressed everything I kind of expressed to you all. But of course I went into more details because it's his family member. They've seen it. They've heard it. And all I know is his grandmother has had a very toxic past with, she used to have a very toxic past with someone in particular, and she was physically abused. And so coming from her, she sat down and she basically told me like, honey, although I was physically abused and I hurt a little bit mentally from that, those bruises, those physical bruises went away. But sweetheart, what you're going through, that mental, that's always going to be with you. And I just cried. And I cried and I cried. Because it was like, it all clicked for me. I had no idea that I was being so mentally abused and broken down until I had that talk with her. And to feel like you have married this man, and to feel like his whole family might have seen me as the bad guy, and to feel like I am alone in this, and that although there were parts that I could have done better at, to feel like I am going so crazy. There was a point that I had done physical harm to myself and was admitted into the hospital. So, everyone has seen me spiral. Everyone in his family, my mom, they have either heard about it. I'm pretty sure they heard when I got admitted, I'm pretty sure he told them. And so it was like, to feel so crazy and for it to feel so chaotic in my head. And like every day something was going wrong, even more than the previous day. And to then be told that what I was going through was basically mental abuse. I didn't know whether to be relieved or confused on how could I have not seen that this is what I was going through. How could I have let it get this bad? And maybe I had made a mistake by sharing this, but I had felt so comfortable and felt like I can air this out. And because of the fact that she had finally told me that she has seen the struggle in me. And she was literally like, sweetheart, when you had gotten married to my grandson, do you know how badly, because the fact that we got married quickly, she was like, sweetheart, when you had married my grandson so quickly, do you know how badly, if you guys ended, I wanted to say that it was because of you? And so he like laughed, and she's like, but now looking at everything that's happened, knowing that it was my own blood who has ruined this for you all. She said something along those lines. Okay, if you're watching it, I'm sorry if I'm not wording it exactly the way you did, but that is what you said to me. That is what she said to me. And it was like, I don't know if this lady is saying this because she finally wants me out of her family or if because she genuinely loves me. And I'm pretty sure it was love. Like, I don't know who could fake love like the way that she, if she was faking love, then that's cruel. But, this lady has wished me happy birthday since I left. I felt like it was love, and I loved this woman. But in that moment, I thought I owed it to her as the one person who could respectfully tell me the truth on what they've seen and what I've dealt with because of their own family member, as in my husband. I felt like she deserved in that moment to know the truth about some of the things that he has said about her. I have already put in my head, like, I have to leave this man, something has to change, whatever. And I expressed to her that the grandmother's house that he decided to be at that Sunday, I told her, maybe I overstepped, Lord. I probably did. But I told her and I said, look, he has resented you for the beef that you two grandmothers have from way back when. He has resented you since that day. He has told me that he resents you for it. That is the exact reason why he struggles to come over here, why he doesn't sometimes want to come over here at all, why he feels like it's a chore to be over here in your presence. He resents you, and it broke her heart, and I knew it would, because this, my husband, was her first grandchild, was her everything. If he wanted it, she's getting it. And so it broke my heart to know that I was breaking a part of hers. But I needed her to know the man that I have been laying next to every day and the thoughts that he has about you, about someone who takes what you do for him for granted. So I told her the truth about how he felt and how he preferred to be at the other grandmother's home. Lord, I know I probably overstepped, y'all. I probably did. So please don't bash me in the comments saying I overstepped. But I did. I just told her, and I told his father. And like I mentioned before, his father is not a fan of this grandmother either. So they were able to understand that possibly the information I'm giving them could be true. I told her, I said, look, if you want to tell him that I told you this, go right ahead. It's already so bad. You can tell him. You know, we kept talking about things, and then we eventually wrapped it up. And so I didn't go back with food for him this time, as I usually do on Sundays if I were to go alone with him. And even if he's there, I'm the one packing up all the food for, you know, the household for us to take back and stuff. But I went empty-handed with just my food back home. And I don't know, can't remember how many days it took him to get home. If that was Sunday, okay, probably only took him later that night, because then he probably had to go to work, show up to base on Monday. I should have mentioned this before, but we had been sleeping in separate rooms now, because this was like a week before we separated, this Sunday dinner that I just spoke about. And we had been sleeping in separate rooms. I was in the guest room. He was in the main bedroom for, I would say, a full month before a separation. Like definitely a full month, maybe month and a half. We were in separate bedrooms. And a lot of it was because I didn't like some of the messiness. And, you know, in the mornings, he'd brush his teeth for like 10 minutes or do whatever he did and call me a nitpicker, but it was loud. And he'd wake me up. And I just felt like it got to a point where both of us were not hating each other, but didn't quite love each other or like each other. So all the stuff that you would kind of be careful about with doing or saying around your partner, it just became to the point that he didn't give an F. I wouldn't say I didn't give an F, because at that time, that was when I like I said, locked in kind of with trying to grow and be a little better. But anyways, when I had got back home, I don't think he was home yet, but he eventually got back home. And 2 days from that, so this is about a full 2 weeks since I had a self-harm incident and was admitted into the hospital. I think we had a really bad argument that night, and we were throwing out divorce, 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 divorce. That is something you should never do when you get married to someone, but that is something that we've been throwing around in arguments since being our second month of being married together. Like it was happening for that long in our arguments. We were throwing around the word divorce. I'll say I messed up. I'm about pretty sure I'm the person that brought it up first and threatened him first, and I will forever regret doing that and breaking his heart if I ever did, and some of the crazy things I said of not being in love with him that I knew was going to hurt him. I was also immature in ways. So by me making this video, by no means am I saying that there weren't things I could work on. I just felt like towards the end, I am the one that locked in, like I said, and it was still he was dragging his feet. But maybe it was just so bad to the point that he was already like, why lock in and be better for her or myself when he doesn't want to be here anyways. About 2 days later, after that talk and the dinner and everything, and we were arguing about something, we started throwing around the word divorce this, divorce that, screaming to the top of our lungs. And I didn't mention this, but a while back, like a month ago, we had such a loud argument that the cops showed up. All I remember is I slammed the heck out of the bathroom door. And we were both yelling. It wasn't just me. We were both yelling. And I knew that like the people could hear through the thin walls in that moment. And I went to go lay down on the couch. I was crying, bundled up in a blanket. Boom, 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 boom at the front door. Basically like, hey, it's police. My ex-husband, he'd walk to the front door, answer the door. They'd came in and basically was analyzing the situation, looking at him, looking at me, seeing that our house was clean. Because, you know, most times when people are in abusive relationships, like it's just, everything's chaotic and a mess, but type A. So the house was clean and they're looking around, but they see me on the couch all bundled up because I think I was like darn near naked. And they come over to me because now I look like the innocent one, the victim, right? Because I'm crying. Didn't mean for it to look that way. And he's with his shirt off and, you know, he's heated in the face and stuff. And they come over and they're like, ma'am, are you okay? Are you good? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. You know, crying, telling them I'm good. I'm like, he hasn't hit me. I swear he hasn't hit me. Mind you, that makes it seem even worse because, you know, I work at a jail and I've seen the way people act when they are being abused and they're scared for the abuser to find out they told it they're being abused. So I'm sure the cops are just like, be for real. Be so for real right now. And I'm like, no, I swear he loves me. We're in a bad spot right now. And I'm sorry. We're going to be quiet. We're going to bed now or whatever. I couldn't believe we got the cops called on us. I couldn't believe I was in one of those marriages where it got so bad to the point that neighbors had to call the cops on us. Yeah. Yelling out, divorce this, divorce that. And it was some more yelling, but we had learned our lesson from being too loud. So I don't remember at what point, but at one point I was kind of like, whatever, screw this. And then I went to go check the mail. I walked out to go check the mailbox. I opened the mailbox, and as I'm going through all of our mail, I see my name on 2 letters, and inside of it, it looks like there's a check. So I get back into the house, I go into the guest bedroom where I've been staying, and I'm opening this letter, and all I see is a check. It's this green check, and it says $1,500. And I'm like, what the heck? And it has my name all over it, and I'm like, this gotta be a scam. Okay. Open up the next letter that looked like a check. I'm looking at it. $18,000+. What the heck? So in the midst of me trying to get myself together, right? I don't want I'm about to call my mom and ask her if these are real, but I just finished arguing with my husband about us getting divorced, whatever. And so I'm like, my face is red, and I'm like, okay, get yourself together. So instead of like, I kind of like don't really show my face in the camera. I'm kind of backed up and I'm calling her and I'm like, hey Ma, I flip the camera and I show her the 2 checks. And I think she was like out that night. She was like, oh my gosh, those are real. And I was like, oh my gosh, what could this be from? And I was like, is this from the VA? Is this my disability money? And she was like, huh. And so she steps out of wherever she was from the loud music, and don't hate my mom for this, but as a protective mother that knows about the Sunday talk that I just had, knows about the cops being, well, I don't know if she knew about the cops being caught, but knew that like a week prior, I did self-harm, was admitted to the hospital, all this crazy mental abuse crap, right? She's like, well, don't tell him. And me being the Christian wife that I was trying so hard to be, I'm telling her like, I don't care what you say. I'm going to tell him. How would you feel if you were married to someone and going through a hard time and they got all this money that they're going to forever get for the rest of their life every month and they didn't tell you and they're just pocketing all? How would you feel? And she was kind of disappointed in me, but she was like, okay, Zaria, you're going to do what you want to do. Fine. And I'm crying and I'm like, but he's my husband. Like, we can work this out. Mind you, I just finished screaming out divorce outside, like both of us to each other. But in my head, I'm like, I can't keep this from him. This is my husband, regardless if we're about to get a divorce or not. Like, this is something you tell your person. I think when things had calmed down late that night, I either told him or it was the next day I told him. And I said, hey, look at this. I said, I want you to know, I know things are bad, but this could be life-changing for us. And maybe this can be something that can take some more stress off of us. I said, I know the things that we talked about last night, but I just want you to know the truth and what I received in the mail. And so I tell him about the money I got, whatever, from the VA, disability money. And before I had told him, my mom and I, we were having a conversation, and she was like, this could be a message from God. You are so worried about the fact that if you have to leave this man, that you're not going to financially be able to provide for yourself and have your own place. Mind you, you can move back home, but you've been so worried about this as well, you know, thinking in the back of your head if you had to be alone again. And I said, I know. I was like, I don't know if this is from God. I don't want to put this on him. I don't know if it could be the devil who is further trying to make it seem like it's something from God and make me leave my husband quicker. You know, I didn't know which way to think of it. I just knew that I had a lot of money. I had just finished going through a lot of deep stuff with my husband. And this could be a comfortable way out. No matter, even if it was still heartbreaking, at least I knew that I could be okay on my own. And so, like I said, I told him the next day or so, or that night, and things had kind of cooled over with us for like the next 2 days. And I just know that next day, I was out at TJ Maxx. I was out at Walmart. I upgraded his coffee machine because he drank coffee every day. I'd gotten us this, that, the third, right? Not blowing through money, but I spent a good like $300 the next day just trying to get him things I knew he wanted or liked or whether it was replenishing things in the house, groceries. Like, I just wanted to show him that although we are going through this tough spot, our duties as a Christian in a Christian relationship, a marriage that's supposed to be serving God, I want us to be okay. And he basically had, even though I was buying stuff, he looked at me like, look, I'm happy you got your disability money. I'm not going to take that away from you. But I don't want your money. I'm like, it's not about wanting the money. It's about the fact that we can be okay. We are now going to be okay financially. That is one less burden taken off, and that'll allow us to focus on other things that we can fix. But little did I know, it was already to a point of, you can't fix it. So it was like another 2 days later. I'm laying in bed because I didn't have to go. I was working on base at the time as a commissary. It was like a third party place, but I was a manager at the commissary for a third party company. And the commissary is a grocery store, if you didn't know that, on a base. And so I'm laying down sleep because I didn't have to go to work until I don't know what time. He's already at work on base. I don't remember what time it is. It's some point in the morning, like 10, 11 or something. And all I know is I have the room door closed. I sleep with the door closed. I knew he left to go to work. And I'm in the main bedroom. You know, we tried to snuggle it out the past 2 days, whatever. We got this money that'll fix one of our issues. So like we're trying to be more relaxed with one another. All I know is he comes storming in. He came storming in, bust that door open. And as I'm like just laying there, he is like standing over me and he's looking at me like. And so like, I thought we both are goofy at times. So I'm like hiding under the cover like, what? I was being stupid. I was so dumb for not noticing that but it was what I call a narcissistic stare. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. And he was like, how could you? Or whatever he said. But he was like, you need to get out. You need to get out of here. You are this, that, the third. When I tell you, he called me it, right? And I'm like, so I'm getting up like, oh, okay, no, he's being for real right now. I said, what are you talking about? He's like, you know, you're real something, aren't you? How dare you tell my grandmother that I resent her and I don't want to talk to her, be there on Sundays. I said, first off, who are you lying to? We have these conversations all the time. That's the truth. I said, I'm sorry I told her, but I'm not sorry. But that's the truth. Who are you lying to? What you're not going to do is manipulate me and act like you didn't tell me, like we didn't have these conversations for hours, that you resented her for what was going on. He was like, you had no place, you had no right to tell her those things. And I mean, he's going off. Now I'm in the living room. I got clothes on, whatever. And we're both screaming. And he's like, you need to get out of here. You need to get out. And, you know, the whole time towards the end of the marriage, my mom and some other people were explaining to me that, you know, when you're in an abusive relationship or with a narcissist, it starts with the mental abuse. And they would ask me, is he aggressive? And I would always be like, no, like he ain't gonna put me, I'm a black woman. What I look like getting hit by someone? I'm sorry. I know there's obviously black women out there who have been in abusive relationships, but me personally, my thought process was, I wish someone would. And, you know, they were also worried because we had a lot of weapons in the house. He was a rifle instructor. We had several guns in the home, right? Firearms. And so, you know, they would ask me like, okay, so if he's aggressive, do you ever think he's going to hit you? And I'm like, nah, that's a Christian man. He ain't going to hit me. Like, we're going through a tough time, but he will never hit me. And I wish he would if he did, right? Type of thing. And so in that moment when he came in yelling and saying, I need to get out, I didn't leave because he told me to get out. I left because as a woman, you have to realize when that boundary has then been crossed. And in that moment, when I looked him in his eyes, I no longer saw him. I saw evil. And that was it. And so we were yelling. He eventually left. He had left work. He had left his job on base, a rifle instructor, training new recruits. He had left his job. And I believe it was, I'm not going to say who told him this conversation or how it got, you know, with the grandmother, but someone told him, which I didn't care if he found out, but it was the fact of he had left his job to come yell at me, tell me I needed to leave, had that narcissistic look in his eyes, screaming to the top of his lungs. And I just looked at him and I was like, this is that moment. This is that moment where I knew I had to flee. And so he had left, he went back on base, and I'm shaking, not from fear, but shaking because I knew no matter how much we tried, this is that moment and I've got to go. I'm shaking. I call my mom. I tell her, I'm like, he knows about that weekend. The way he came in, he looked at me and he was like, you gotta go, you gotta go. And she was like, Zaria, get your crap and leave. And so I'm telling her, like, can you come? Like, she's like, I can leave work, but I'm not going to be there for another 5.5 hours. Like, you're 4 hours away or whatever. And so she's like, you got to put on your big girl drawers. You got to pack and you got to get as much as you can in your vehicle and you need to come home. We had a cat. So I'm like, I'm getting everything for my cat first. I'm getting all my necessities, anything that I knew that I was going to need before I wanted to ever. I didn't know how long I was going to be gone for, to the point of coming back to get more stuff. I just knew that I didn't know if he went back to base, if he went somewhere to come right back. I didn't know what happened. All I knew is it took me about an hour of getting a bunch of stuff, my cat and everything, and I left. Went to a hotel, not too far from base. It was across the street from the jail I worked at, or had worked at. And so I stayed at this like Hilton hotel. And when I tell you, this was that video that I made that went viral on Instagram, viral-ish. This is what I mean by heartbreak, because that day, every argument, every single moment in this marriage and in time that I have lived with him, everything was replaying in my head up until this moment of, I'm finally leaving. We are finally ending this. Not finally in a good way, but it's come to that end. And I remember it was like later at night at one point with my cat, and I had her in the hotel room walking around, and I was playing a video, an old video, and it had his voice in it. And she starts meowing, and it made me cry even harder, because I'm like, I know this sounds dramatic to you. I'm like, but my poor baby cat, like, I couldn't imagine having a kid having to do this, right? This is my cat who was crying out for her dad. Like, we had her since she was a kitten. We went to go get her together. So all the emotions of like, I can't believe this is happening to me. I can't believe that I am now leaving my marriage. I can't believe that I have failed God in my marriage. It was the next day and I needed to grab some more stuff from the house. And so I get to the complex and I call a police officer because of how heated it was. I have no clue what could happen if I walked in there alone. Like I said, we had multiple weapons. Didn't think he was ever going to put his hands on me or do something. But I was also going through that mental. Mind you, if I was with him for 5 more years, 2 more years, it could have gotten to that point. Lord, who knows? I just knew that I couldn't be with that man face on, one-on-one. I call the cops and the cops are knocking on the door. No answer. The cops knock on the door again, a little bit harder. And I had explained to them about the fact that I'm leaving my husband and I need to come grab some stuff and things have gotten really bad. And he opens the door. Or no, I open the door because he wasn't answering. So I go with the key that I had and I open the door. And the cops are like, police. And so I walk in further and I'm like, he's probably in the bedroom, because I knew his car was out front. I think he was sleeping and like, he kind of like woke up and was like, I don't know. It was one of those things where we had then further argued. I think it was like in text when I went back to the hotel. He was like, and you think you're playing this innocent, sorry about the voice, but he was like, you think you're playing this innocent thing, got people thinking that I'm beating on you, playing this victim role. And then I don't know what I said back. We were arguing in text, but basically in my head, I'm like, this man has always been so obsessed with everyone seeing him as this perfect man. Like, what? No one's worried about you in that sense of making you look like you're the bad guy. I just thought that we both needed someone in between. So in case there's more yelling or whatever, like there's none of that's going to happen. I get what I need and go on about my day. That's really how everything ended. And got more of my stuff, went back to the hotel, packed up. I had a Jeep, so I was able to fit a lot of crap in there. Then the next day, went home to my mom's house, lived with my mom for about a year or whatever. But like 3 months after living back with her, we had then took a road trip back to South Carolina to further go get more stuff. My ex-husband was on base working, and we had packed up this huge van it wasn't a U-Haul, but it was a big van. We took out seats and stuff, and we just packed it up with anything that I've like bought, like decor, certain things that I knew that he would never care about, but I knew cost good money and I wanted to take with me. Went back home, and yeah. Then the election had happened, end of December, January, the election had happened. And I remember I had posted, like I had a Kamala Harris hat, and I had posted like a part of the ballot saying like I voted or whatever, and it just showed the bubble with her name on it that I filled out, not the whole ballot. And I just remember he sent me this. Honestly, if I can find it, I'm gonna put it right here. Promise you, I'm gonna put it right here. And it was just a lengthy message basically stating like, I can't believe you voted for her. And mind you, him and being a little Trumpy now, one of the first reasons why we started that friction, he's like, I can't believe you've always been able to be brainwashed, whatever the heck he said. But he went off the rails in that message about me voting for Kamala and how stupid I am, basically. And it just further told me like, dude, it's been like half a year now since we've split, and you were still worried about what I'm doing, who I voted for, and you thought I was going to vote for Trump of all people. You gotta be kidding me. This couldn't have been a clear message that I don't know who I married. And that's how it ended. If you guys want me to make some more videos on mental health, down more. I know some people have DM'd me on Instagram. Like I said, that video kind of went viral-ish. So I've gotten, my DMs are flooded, comment section kind of flooded. I've been answering and responding back to you all every day. And that video has been up for about a week. And I have been responding to as many people as I can about every day, especially my DMs. But other than those people who have told me the type of videos they want me to make, if you are watching this now and you guys want me to make a particular video that can further put some more insight or help you guys out with your situation or questions that you have, please leave a comment down below. Or if you feel more comfortable DMing me where no one else can see, please do so. I will respond to you as soon as possible. Yeah, this video was a long one. If you stuck through it all, thank you so much for hearing me out on my story. I just want to further close this in with saying, by no means was I the perfect wife. He was not the perfect husband, but there were a lot of things that went wrong, and I am only speaking of the facts on my point of view as to what went wrong enough for me and him to split. It was a mutual split. If you stayed the whole time, then you know it was a mutual split. But it was definitely I had to go. And love you all. Peace.